Hi there, and welcome to my video in reference to cyberbullying for parents. I did want to speak on, like I said before, cyberbullying because a lot of parents don't know how to deal with this, how to prevent it, or just not much about it at all. So I'm going to go into that in a little bit of detail. Cyberbullying has been an issue as long as social media has been around. Back when I was a preteen, the only real relevant social media site was MySpace. Now you've got a multitude of other sites and apps such as Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, Meet Me, Instagram, etc. Cyberbullying can be done with messenger apps as well as Kik and WhatsApp. Half of these I've never even heard of, but you can definitely download them. My girlfriend has the other half I don't have. Then you can even go as far as dating apps like Plenty of Fish and OkCupid, stuff like that. Within this resource, I'll be looking at three different phases of cyberbullying. First, looking at examples of cyberbullying itself is important, as some of these examples might not be as obvious to some parents. Secondly, I'll talk about what to do once you have learned your child has been lying. Finally, I'll mention steps you as a parent can do to prevent your child from being put in a situation. It's unfortunate that this is an example of a chrono system, as it clearly encompasses change over time as far as the effects of bullying goes for a child's attitude and perhaps even personality. And at the end of this, I'm going to try to link some books, parents can do themselves, reading wise, to educate themselves further. Of course, a lot of these resources in themselves are kind of expensive, so keep that in mind. But like I said, I'll make sure at the end of the video to definitely go into that. But for starters, let's look at bullying itself. The OBS Bullying Prevention Program defines a person being bullied when he or she is exposed repeatedly over time to negative actions on the part of one or more other persons. Furthermore, there is a notable power difference between the victim and the bully. Unlike bullying in person, there isn't any upfront physical intimidation. Normally, when you worry about your child being bullied, you imagine the stereotypical bully in the hallway of her school being pushed against the wall. Now, online, there is much more to it. You can see one thing that both offline and online bullying in terms of repetition. In the case of bullying online, you can see the same pictures and text messages over and over. If the pictures and texts are embarrassing enough, a bully online could share them to other peers. If the bullying is shared to the other people, said other people could circle back to the victim and bully themselves. So just a cycle of vicious bullying can be really unfortunate. Now, how can you as a parent tell if your child is being cyberbullied? Safeguarding Children and Young People Online by Claudia Magel, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, outlines some telltale signs. They may seem withdrawn or feel upset or outraged after using the internet on one of their devices. They might seem withdrawn about receiving messages and be secretive about both of them and overall online activity. They'll either spend more or less time than usual online. They'll seem withdrawn from friends and family, and they'll also avoid peers and social occasions. They don't want to go to school. They might have new phone numbers, text messages, and email addresses that you haven't seen before. So let's say that you've learned that your child is being cyberbullied online. What can you do? Well, for starters, it can be a lot hard to find the culprits. Given the fact that a lot of the time the bully can be anonymous, there isn't much the school administration can do as far as this goes. And instead, you have to go to the police if you want further action done. Of course, depending on the resources of the police department, there typically isn't much they can do either. Some of the time, it isn't even a fellow student being the bully. Cyberbullying take control through research-based letter writing. In the English Journal gives an example of this when a student ends up committing suicide after being courted online by who she thought was a boy. This boy ended up writing terrible things on her social media account for everyone to see. It turns out this was actually a mother of another student pretending to be said boy. Given that, what can a parent do? Your child's school can't help a lot of the time. The police likely can't either in some situations. What can you do? Well, there are a few things you can do. Counseling is always a decent option, and one thing I've personally noticed is parents can be too prideful when it comes to considering this for their children. Oh, my kid is too good for counseling. There is nothing wrong with him or her. Chances are, if your child is hurting from this bullying, they'll be too embarrassed to talk to you. I believe that having a third party can come in handy and be beneficial to them, as they'll be more likely to open up. There are ways both parents and schools can help to prevent these things that they've discussed. For starters, schools can need to be sure that they have the proper policies and properly trained school counselors in place. If there aren't any in place, it's perfectly okay as parents to get together and demand that they get put in place. School counselors in the cyberbullying interventions and implications talks about schools' intervention strategies that can teach students how to identify cyberbullying in both school and away from it. Discussing school policy with students and how to report cyberbullying. Make sure your child understands and takes these things seriously. And that's a good starting point. Counselors from the same article I referenced a second ago also recommend an open line of communication. Simply be honest and open with your child. If they feel they are in a reliable ecosystem where they can talk to you when things are going good, then maybe they'll feel that same way when things aren't going so good. Restricting their time online and what sites they go to can also be helpful. Maybe you feel like your child is too young for Snapchat and could lead to inappropriate things like what we've been talking about. You can download parental software to prohibit said app from being installed. As a tech nerd, one thing I'd recommend is having a password blocking the ability to delete browser history. You want to know ahead of time what websites your child are accessing so you can at least somewhat keep an eye on them. To conclude this little spiel I have going on, I'm well aware that the subject matter can be for a parent and leave them feeling helpless as far as what they can do. At the end of the day, it's tough to prevent these things from happening, but that shouldn't stop you from doing everything in your power to. Now, the first thing I mentioned that can be beneficial to you in regards to what we've talked about is always, I think I'm saying it right at least, always bullying prevention program. Now, you can more than likely get yourself a physical copy of this in some kind of capacity. And in doing so, it contains background information on bullying, school-wide implementation checklists, outlines for staff trainings and discussion groups, yada, yada, yada. So whether you're a parent or you're a teacher, counselor, whatever have you, this could be a very beneficial thing for you. Now, the next one we're going to be looking at as well that I've already quoted from is Claudia Miguel's, along with Peter Buzzy, Safeguarding Children and Young People Online, a guide for practitioners. Can't say the damn word. Within this, though, you've got more than just cyberbullying. You've got digital lives and cyberborg childhood, talking about just how children growing up during this digital age versus, 20, 30 years ago is vastly different. Online identity, play online, video games. So wide variety of stuff besides cyberbullying. Sexting is another big one that's going to come up for you guys. Online grooming and child sexual abuse. Very serious topics, but ones that parents should be more aware of. So definitely something I would recommend checking out book-wise. If you have access to JSTOR, this should be free for you. So definitely a very useful tool as far as that goes. Here's another article I referenced that could be interesting for you reading in full. Also available on JSTOR. Cyberbullying, Taking Control Through Research-Based Letter Writing from the English Journal from July 2012. Good little article about cyberbullying that you might want to read to get further, ideas about what's going on. Now, the next one I got information from was article by Julia Chabarro, School Counselors and Cyberbullying, Interventions and Implications. Essentially, this cyberbullying, the act of using technology such as emails, cell phones, or text messages with the intent of causing harm to others, is akin to traditional bullying in many aspects. This article offers a review of the current literature on the topic of cyberbullying, a comparison of traditional traditional bullying and cyberbullying, and suggestions for school-wide interventions. Once again, JSTOR had this. This is another one you could have if you have a subscription to it. A lot of these are going to be subscription based, but if you don't feel like spending the money, you can at least use this that I'm showing you to either try to, just copy and paste the titles here, try to find something for free, or at least find articles that are related to it that will come from scholarly resources, experts in the field, and just get more information from just what I've showed you. We have cyberbullying, what school administrators and parents can do. Technology has transformed the lives of adolescents, including the ways they bully one another. Variously referred to as electronic bullying, online bullying, or cyberbullying, this new method of bullying involves the use of email, instant messaging, websites, voting booths. Voting booths? I've never personally heard that one, but all right. And chat or bash rooms to deliberately pick on and torment others. The wording's a little outdated, but I read it and I feel like it could still be useful in some regards. Voting booths and bash rooms to me are a little bit odd, but hey, like I said, I think it could still be useful. And of course, what I like about this one, as well as some of the other ones I've mentioned, it's different perspectives from just parenting, but as well as school administrators and counselors in the rare instances of someone maybe watching this that are both a school administrator and a parent. Never know. But all in all, I hope this information I've showed you has been useful in some way, maybe made you think of something that you hadn't thought of before. And, you've currently got this time stuck in the house with your kids. It's the perfect time to really analyze what they're doing and just establishing a more personal relationship with them. Talk with them, see how they're doing. More than likely, they're online right now than they were before they were stuck at home. Especially if they're doing educational stuff for school, at home right now. I don't know. I don't have any kids myself, but I can only assume that could be happening. And even more than just that, watch what video games they're playing online, see how they're interacting with random people. As a gamer myself, I see constantly that, I've had 8-year-olds yell explicits at me constantly. So just monitor what your kids are doing with this extra time and stay safe out there. So thank you so much for watching this. I hope it was helpful. If you want more information, if I can answer any questions, please feel free to leave a comment down below, and I will try to do that. You guys have a wonderful day.